We are kicking off this series called Healthy Heart. And when you think about it, I kind of go back to when I was growing up. You had the honeybee for Cheerios, be happy, be healthy. And it was this whole thing like I knew that if I, like even as a kid, I knew if I ate a bowl of Cheerios, it would lower my cholesterol, you know? I just that's all you have to do is just 2 bowls a day and then you're good. And as I got older, this is one of those things that I'm really tried to watch out is just my heart health. My grandfather passed away in his 60s due to heart issues. My dad in his early 40s had a triple bypass heart surgery. And so for me, guarding my heart, being careful, being cautious with it is really important. It's more than just eating rice and kimchi. You have to diet and exercise is really important, right? Because half of me can mess this thing up. My mom's half, I'll be all right. But my dad's half, obviously, they've got some issues with their heart. And we know all the things to keep your heart healthy. But what are those things that we can look at spiritually to let us know, do I have a healthy heart? How do you know, if your spiritual heart is suffering? What are those warning signs? What are those things that go off that let you know you might have a problem? You might have an issue. There's several things we can do when it comes to our physical hearts, but how do you actually monitor your spiritual heart? This will be our kind of key verse for this entire series. It's in Proverbs 4, but it says to guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. So your heart is important because where your heart goes, there your life will go. Where your heart struggles, there your life will struggle. Where your heart is strong, there your life will be strong. So we say it like this: your heart determines the direction of your life. Your heart can determine the direction of your life. So it's really important to know when it comes to our spiritual lives, how is our spiritual heart doing? Is our spiritual heart strong, or are some of us here today our spiritual heart might be weak? It might give us some warning signs. David, he was saying this in one of his Psalms. He was talking about wicked people, but I want us to listen to the words that he says and then realize what it might mean for us. He says it this way: in their own eyes, they flatter themselves too much to detect or hate their sin. And isn't that true for us as individuals? That we tend to flatter ourselves sometimes. I do it. Most guys, I don't know, probably can relate to this. I'm just walking by my house, just minding my own business. I walk by a mirror and I'm like, hey, do you work out? I'm like, I do. Thank you for noticing, right? We say things that flatter ourselves a lot, right? Maybe it's a presentation at work and you get done, you're like, I crushed that. Maybe it's singing, you're like, I'm such a great singer. Maybe it's you're like, I'm such a funny person. Hey, no one else can do this thing that I can do. And we really tend to flatter ourselves. We tend to be our biggest fans, right? No one has to tell us if we're good at something. We tell ourselves those things all the time. But yet we need a little self-examination, because at the same time in flattering ourselves, we can also deceive ourselves into thinking that we might have a problem. We'd say, no, it's not a big deal. I've got this under control. I'm not in trouble at all. And our hearts can play tricks on us. It helps us think that we're somewhere that maybe we might not be. You'll hear me say this a lot because I think it's such a powerful verse, but the prophet Jeremiah said this in 17:9. He says, the human heart is the most deceitful of all things. It's desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? Man, think about that. The human heart is the most deceitful. In other words, our hearts will lead us astray more often than it will lead us to safety. It will lead us astray. It will lead us into danger. It's desperately wicked, he says. Who really knows how bad that it is? So just look around society. Some of the brokenness and depravity that we see in all throughout humanity is because there's evil in hearts of people, right? Some of the things that go on in the lives of people, how does this happen? There are literally documentaries full of just evil intent in people's hearts. I'm talking those murder mysteries. Yes, my wife loves those things. So as a guy, I've watched a lot of it, right? I also feel if something ever happens to me, she knows how to avoid detection, all right? So you just remember that. We said it here. You heard it here first, right? So our hearts are so deceitful. Our hearts lead us astray. Our hearts can take us to places that we never thought we would go. Who really knows how bad that our hearts are struggling? In the beginning, Adam and Eve, they lived in this perfect paradise, and said what happened? They brought sin into the world. They get kicked out of the garden and they continue their life. And it says through scripture that they had a couple of sons, Cain and Abel. Now, as you can imagine, these are just the first two sons that we hear about. There wasn't a lot of jobs back then, right? There was only like a few jobs. So Cain was a farmer, basically, and then you have Abel, and he's like a shepherd. He's taking care of all the animals. And I want to point this out because as we're talking about like deception of human hearts, listen to what happens in Genesis chapter 4, saying in verse 3, it said this, that when the time came for the harvest, Cain presented some of his crops as a gift to the Lord. And it says, also Abel brought a gift, the best portions of the firstborn lambs from his flock. The Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but he did not accept Cain and his gift. And this made Cain very angry, and he looked dejected. Why are you so angry? The Lord asked Cain. Why do you look so dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right. But if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you, but you must subdue it and be its master. One day, Cain suggested to his brother, hey, let's go out into the fields. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. It's the first murder we see in Scripture. And it's kind of sad. We got to kind of go there for a second and figure out what's going on. Because as you read Scripture, it didn't say that God required a gift from anybody. As a matter of fact, it just said the harvest came, and Cain looked at all of his harvest, and obviously he was very good at what he did. He looked at some of his produce, and he says, all right, I'm going to give some of this back to God. I'm just going to give him. I got so much, and I'm going to give it back to him. But it contrasts in the language there, and if you read the Scriptures again, if you kind of look at it more carefully, it says what? Cain gave some of his produce to God. But it says that Abel went through and he found the firstborn lamb, the best one, and he gave God his best. Cain's looking at all his stuff and he's like, got misfits markets over here, like, all right, I can't sell this stuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this to God, right? And it says what happens. It says that God accepts Abel's gift, but he doesn't accept Cain's gift. Now, this is, again, we got to understand what's going on here. And there's a lot of ways we can take this message, but I do want to point out, why was Abel's gift accepted? It's because he gave God what was first, and he gave God what was best. Cain just gives God some of his produce. Do you see? God expects our first and our best from us. When you give God your leftovers, he's not going to accept that. You ever been somewhere like you've been at a party or something, birthday? You ever had like a gift that was definitely like second thought? Maybe a re-gifted gift, right? When you get married, I feel like that happens all the time. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, I got this crock pot that was not on the registry, right? It's obvious this has been sitting in the back of your counters for a while, and you gave it to us. Thank you, right? You ever been re-gifted something, or you show up somewhere and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was their birthday, or oh my goodness, I didn't know. And so it's like you just pull out like, I got $20, happy birthday. And they know, you're like, that they know. Like there's no thought or intentionality behind this gift. You just got caught up in a situation. And yet this is what Cain does. He looks at all of his produce and he doesn't choose the best. He doesn't choose what he had first. He just chooses out of the abundance and then he gives that to God. And yet, God doesn't accept that because he wants our first and he wants our best. And you can apply that to any area of your life. When it comes to giving, you might be wondering, why doesn't God bless me in my giving? Well, it's because you don't give him first and you don't give him your best. It required a sacrifice from Abel to give him the first and the best. That was a sacrifice. And yet for Cain, it was nothing, just to choose some of his stuff and give it to God. When it comes to your time, do you give God your first and your best, or you give him just like leftovers? When it comes to any aspect of your life, are you giving God your first and your best, or are you just kind of giving him whatever you have? And yet we wonder why our lives and our relationships with God doesn't feel that strong. It's because we just give him whatever is left over. And yet, here it is, God tells Cain, why are you upset? Why are you dejected? And this is where maybe so many of us, we think like God's ready to beat us up. God's ready to just lay the hammer down. God's ready to just be so judgmental. But actually, God's very loving in what he says to Cain. He says, Cain, hey, listen, you just kind of gave me your leftovers. He's like, but if you just do what is right, if you just do what you know is right, you're going to be accepted. You're going to be loved. You don't have to worry about it. And I think that is so amazing when it comes to our relationship with God, that when we mess up and we make mistakes, God's not ready to just like beat it into our head and tell us how wrong we are. He says, hey, just do the right thing. All you have to do is the right thing, and it's going to be okay. But what happens to Cain? He allows jealousy and envy to begin to creep into his heart. Remember, sin is now in the world, and his heart begins to go to some dark places. He gets so jealous and so full of envy and bitterness and anger towards his brother. He says, hey, why don't we just go out into the fields and hang out there for a second? And what happens when he goes out there? He kills his brother. Abel didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't trying to like one-up his brother. He wasn't trying to be like, hey, I'm about to outgive you. He just says, I want to give God the best. And so he goes through and he gives God the best, and it cost him his life. And do you know, sometimes you and I, we do that too. We look at people who are just doing their best, and we get jealous, don't we? We get envious at what people do. We get maybe angry at them. Why does God seem to bless their life and he's not doing it in my life? And we can be full of those same things, those thoughts and feelings that Cain had as well. My prayer for this series and even for this day, and when it comes to self-deception, is what David wrote here in Psalm 139. He says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. Do you know, like, that is a difficult prayer to pray? It says, point out anything in me so that I can know where I'm falling short, because I want to go down the path that leads to life. I don't want to go down the path to separation and death. I want to go down the path to life. So God, you point out anything that you see in me. I want to be healthy. I mean, no one likes saying that. I know I don't. Like, hey, if you see any fault in me, can you let me know? I think that's what marriage is. You know what I'm saying? Like, any fault in me, they're going to let you know, right? They're going to tell you where you're falling short, where things are messed up. And you're like, all right, like, you don't have to tell me everything, right? Just tell me maybe one thing, like one thing a year. That would be fine. That's enough for me to work on for the entire year, right? And yet, this is the prayer of David. He says, I want you, God, to know my heart. Man, and when you think about that, like, God, know my heart. And we already know how deceitful the heart is. We already know how the heart can lead us astray. And David's saying, God, I want you to know my heart. That's really, really tough. Because sometimes I know my own heart, and I go, man, God, I want to go down the path of life. That means there's some work that I have to do. So I want to point out just 5 indicators of like self-deception. Are you deceiving yourself? It says the heart is so desperately wicked and evil, who can know the way? And so I want to point out 5 areas that maybe you might look at and go, oh, I might be deceiving myself here. I might have something going on with my heart. The first one is this, is you have a compulsion for busyness. You have a compulsion for busyness. This is the person that distracts themselves by constantly saying busy. It's when you have so much going on, you keep your life busy, you keep your family busy, you keep your kids busy, you keep your spouse busy, you stay busy at work. You're just staying constantly busy. And why do we stay so busy? Because you know if you slow down and actually stop and took a breather, you might have to start dealing with some of the things that you're going through, right? You find this a lot of times after the loss of someone that you love. When you lose someone, what do people do? A lot of times they try to stay busy. They try to keep their mind busy because they don't want to deal with the pain that's going to come when they sit still. This is the same thing, but when it comes to our hearts, we're deceiving ourselves, and so we want to stay busy. We don't want to think we have any problems. We want to push them away. I don't want to deal with this stuff. I don't want to deal with the things in my marriage. I don't want to deal with my finances. I don't want to deal with what I'm going through. I don't want to deal with this darkness. So you're just busy, busy, busy. And then what you do is you don't address those things. And then what do? You start working all the time. You're just a workaholic, and it's like, oh man, and everyone thinks you're doing great because you work so much. No one puts in hours like you, but it's really just you're keeping yourself busy. Or you just put yourself into your hobbies, and you just have these things you just give all your time and effort and energy to, and you're just ignoring the people around you because you don't want to deal with it. So you avoid the issues, and maybe your first sign of self-deception is just a compulsion for busyness. The second thing is this: a high-strung optimism. A high-strung optimism. You might be deceiving yourself if you're just honestly like a weird level of like optimistic, all right? And by that I mean like social media is filled with all the highlight reels and people talking about how amazing my life is and look at all the things that I've done. Look at how amazing my life is, but yet behind the scenes, if you could get a glimpse of what's really going on, you're like, oh, that picture of your marriage, that's actually, you're lying. That's not true at all. Oh, you're traveling and going to all these places, but you have so much debt. Like you actually like have people that are coming after you because they want their money. Or, oh, you thought things were going well. No, your life is not what you are portraying at all. And maybe that's what's happening here this morning. We call it like the fake smiles, right? We show up to church and we smile and it's like, hey, God is good. Everything is going well. And I pray like this is one of the times like as a church, like my prayer has always been like Cornerstone can be the place where it's okay to not be okay. Like you don't have to fake it. Like you don't have to act like everything is good, but maybe when things aren't good. That's what the church family is for, the body, to like pray for each other, lift each other up, to be there for one another, right? But yet sometimes we're just lying about what's really going on in our lives. And so we tell everybody everything is okay when really you're hurt, you're depressed, you're dealing with like this dark season. And why do we do that? You don't want anyone to feel sorry for you. So you don't tell anyone that anything's going on. You're just like, no, I mean, just, it's good. Life is good. Everything is great. But really everything isn't great. The third thought is this, another area of self-deception is just super judgmental. Super judgmental. I think we all know, like, we all have issues. We all deal with things, of course. But this is where we kind of deflect those things and we point it towards other people, and we're really harsh with how we deal with them. Like you saw that in the New Testament with the Pharisees. They had all sorts of like messed up things going on in their lives, but instead of looking at themselves, they talked about how holy they are and how close to God they are, and they started pointing the finger at other people. And super judgmental people, sometimes they're dealing with the same issue they're judging people about. That's honestly, like as a pastor, one thing that I really strive hard for and I'm cautious about, because I have people that have been friends in ministry, and then you see the stories of like pastors who are so judgmental towards people on certain things, and then what happens? They get busted for the very thing that they were pointing people at and telling them how they were wrong. They get in trouble for those same things. And so that's something like to be cautious about, yet to be so harsh towards something. But yet we do that to people all the time. We're pointing out things in people and the lives of what they're doing and decisions they make, and yet we might be dealing with those same issues. We judge others because it's the very thing we hate in ourselves, and so it makes us feel better if we can point it out in somebody else. The fourth area of self-deception is where maybe you're overly defensive. Maybe you're overly defensive. It's like when someone says something to you, your walls go up right away. No one wants to be told like, hey, you have a problem. You have some issue. It's like, nope, I have no problem. What are you talking about? You heard me wrong. Maybe you might suggest something to someone like, hey, I don't know, but you might be struggling with this. I have no problem. What are you talking about? Everything is great. No, I don't think you understood what I was saying. No, you don't understand. No, I don't have a problem. You become very defensive. Why is that? Maybe you feel vulnerable because someone picked on this or said something about a spot where you're sensitive about, and so you want to just deny the problem, deny that you have an issue. Maybe it's someone else's fault that you feel like that. It's really not you. You don't want to face any issue that you have. You're kind of defensive. Right? The fifth thing is this, another area of self-deception is you become jaded. And I think this is like the worst spot for people to get is when you just kind of get to this place where like life is just bad. You don't like what's going on. You're frustrated. People have continually let you down over and over and over again, and cynicism begins to take over your life. This is just the way that it is. Everything is horrible, and you play it off as like, I'm just a glass half empty kind of person. I'm just pessimistic, but there's really something deeper going on there. There's a truth to what's being said about you, and you just don't want to deal with it. The thing with self-deception is that you've got to have exams. And really, we're talking about a physical exam, this exam to look at your heart, right? When you go to the doctor, like, I think I'm like, maybe like most guys in the room, I don't like just going to the doctor, right? I'm not like, yeah, I feel like I should go to the doctor. Why? What's wrong? I just want to go, you know? I don't know why. I just have this inkling like it's time. Like I want to go there and I want to get all the exams, right? Have you ever met anyone like that? It's like, what are you here today for, sir? I just want the exams. Which one? All of them. What do you mean? Like, anything you want to give me, I will take it. Anything you want to poke and prod, let it happen, right? If I want to drink, you ever seen like the people, they're like drinking like the jug of stuff, it's cleaning them out. Like, I want that, right? Like, who says that? No one knows that. And I found out because I thought, I'm 41 and I thought I had until I was 50, but someone's telling me it's 45. I can promise you I'm gonna push it to 50, right? I don't want no exams. I don't want that exam for sure. Don't want that one. But yet, who says it? Like, give me the exams. I want it. But what happens in the exams? It's sometimes you find some things that might be wrong with you. And so we wanna look at this, like what are those indicators for ourselves? Like if you're driving a car, you know, bloop, gas light comes on. You know that if at some point, if you don't stop and get gas, your car is not going to go anymore. Like you can push it as far as you want to, eventually it will run out of gas and you can't go. And you're ignoring the sign. Maybe you have the little check engine light comes on. It could be something as simple as, hey dude, time to change the oil on this thing, all right? Like we're begging you, please give us some new oil in us. We're dying here. It could be something as simple like you just got like a little chip that needs to get replaced. Or it can even be something greater like, hey, you've got some major issues that if you don't handle this thing, it's gonna destroy your car, right? What are those warning lights for us, for those of us who have a relationship with Jesus? What are those warning signs? What are those things that's like, here's a light, like, hey, you're having a problem. There's something going on. You might wanna go ahead and get this checked out. What is that for us? I wanna give you like these 3 questions and we'll kind of dive into what that looks like, all right? Is there a problem that you're denying? Like maybe do you have a problem, but you're just constantly like denying it. You don't wanna act like you don't wanna think you even have a problem. No, life is good. There is no problem. Is there a sin that you're rationalizing? Something you're saying, hey, this is not a big deal. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. It was just that one time. Is there an issue that you are hiding? Is there something you're going like, I don't want anyone to know about this. It's just secret. It's just you. It's kind of these 3 questions that we would call like, these are like those probing questions. These are these things to see. Is there like a sensitivity? Do you might have like some indicators going on that you might not be as healthy as you think? So we kind of say it like this: you cannot change what you don't confront. You can't change something if you don't ever confront it. And what I'm saying is maybe it's for some of us as followers of Christ, it might be time to confront some of the things we have going on in our lives so that we can be the healthiest versions of ourselves. So what are these spiritual signs? What are the warning lights? I want to give you 3 things. Here's the first thought. All right. Have people tried to point something out in your life? When someone says something to you, especially if they love you, it might be time to like listen. Have you ever had this happen to you where like someone said something to you and like someone totally unrelated says like almost the same thing to you? Like that might be like an indicator. I might need to like listen to what's going on here. I fully believe that God uses people in our lives who are surrounded by us to point things out in us as an indicator. We might have an issue. It might be time to check your heart. Maybe it's that person that pulls you aside and says, hey, I care about you. I love you. I feel like you're drinking too much. Like this has gone next level. Hey, you pull them aside and you're saying like, hey, I feel like maybe you're like dealing with some depression. You're not the same anymore. Like, hey, you're standoffish. You're pushing people away. Maybe it's that thing that says like, hey, I feel like maybe you're dealing with some anger, like you're really just angry, or you're hurt, or you're depressed, or maybe you're just dealing with pornography, or maybe you're just dealing with debt, or maybe you're dealing with pride. And if someone's talking to you, it's because they care about you and they love you, right? Sometimes we don't want people to say anything negative to us. And if you have people like that in your life, they really don't care about you. But people that love you, like genuinely love you, will say difficult things to you, just a way to say, like, I'm not saying you are this, I'm just asking a question. Hey, is something going on in your life? You might want to begin to check that. It could be an indicator that you are dealing with something in your life. The second thing is this: what are you trying to rationalize? What are you trying to rationalize? What is that thing you're brushing off like, this is not a big deal, I'm not hurting anyone, I can handle it, you don't know me, let me live my life, let you live your own life, and you're just rationalizing your behavior, telling people like it's no big deal. I can do it. I'm not gonna do it again. It was just that one time. I don't have to do blank, whatever the case might be. You're just trying to rationalize your behavior, rationalize your decision, rationalize your choices. The third thought is this: what are you defensive about? What are you defensive about? And the same thing if we go back to that doctor and you have like areas where it's like, oh, like sometimes if you're telling them like, hey, I've been having back pain, they kind of push on those spots where there is pain. Or if you've ever been hurt before, we kind of guard ourselves because we don't want any more pain than the pain we've already felt in what we're going through. And so you get defensive and you deny the problem. You deny that you have a problem. I don't have a problem. You have a problem. And we push it aside. We're brushing off our behavior. We're telling people what? Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Let me go through this. Let me deal with this. It's my life, not yours. And you begin to become very defensive. When you push away people that you love, you might need to get your heart checked. You might need to see like, hey, I might have something going on. And you convince yourself what? You convince yourselves by saying, I don't have an issue. I don't have a problem. I'm okay. It's really not that bad. I think they're over-exaggerating what's taking place. And yet, that's where you recognize my heart is deceitful and it might be leading me astray. It might be taking me a direction that I really don't want to go. And you might be here going like, I don't have a problem. It might be the exact sign that says, actually, you really do have a problem. And my prayer is that the Holy Spirit will begin to work in your heart and work in your life and begin to show you some areas where maybe you can begin taking some steps so that you can have healing. Maybe for you it's, okay, I recognize maybe it's time that I need to get into like some sort of recovery program. Maybe you are struggling with addiction and you need to take those next steps. Maybe for you it's, hey, maybe it is time I call someone, I need to see a counselor. Hey, our marriage, we need to see a counselor. Maybe it's time to go, hey, we have been making some bad decisions and I need to move forward. What is that thing for you? And my prayer today is what David said in his prayer in Psalm 139, search me, O God, know my heart, test me, and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. Let's pray together.